Maharaj.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskars to all of you. Welcome to the discussion on Ramakrishna, the Great Master, written by Sharadanandaji Maharaj. We have now all become small friends and childhood mates of Sri Ramakrishna. We are all now coming to Kamarpukur to see the play, the sports, and other leelas of Sri Ramakrishna Gadadhara. So we shall go to see what is happening, how Kshudirama Chattopadhyaya is training the child and how Gadadhar is growing up as a child. Now he is about 5 or 6 years in age. Let us see what is going to happen to him. There is a big tank known as Haldar Pukur in Kamarpukur, the place called Kamarpukur. I told you last time that Kamarpukur gets the name by a big tank. In Sanskrit, the name for tank is Pushkarini or Pushkara. So from Pushkara, we get the Apabhramsha of Pukur. In Bengali language, it has become Pukur. So Kamar means those people who were from the blacksmith or goldsmiths, they are called Kamar. So because a lot of people, Dhani Kamarani, she was also from that group. So that pond was named as Kamar Pushkarini, Kamara Pushkarini. That slowly became Kamar Pukur. Now, near Ramakrishna's house, Gadadhar's house, maybe if you walk behind the ashrama, some 50 or 60 steps, then you get another pond, big pond, quite a big pond, where all the ashrama people, now present day, the devotees, they go and take bath there, because Ramakrishna, Gadadhar and all other, the parents used to go and take bath there. That is called Haldar Pushkarini. Haldar is the name of a person. Pushkarini means, you know, just now I explained, it is a lake or a pond is called as Pushkara, Pushkarini. So now that has become Haldar Pukur. So it's very near to Gadadhar's house. So there is a big tank known as Haldar Pukur by the side of Kshudiram's house. All the villagers used to use its clear, pure water for bathing, drinking, cooking, etc. Each time we go to Kamarpukur, it's my regular practice. I go there and take bath in this tank and also swim from this side to other side and come back again. That's our regular practice whenever we go to Kamarpukur. So it's a very beautiful pond, or rather it's a big lake. Then 170 years back or 169 years back, all the villagers used its clear, pure water for bathing, drinking, cooking, etc. It had 2 bathing ghats. Ghats means there will be steps created for the easy approach of people to go down to the lake, because sometimes suddenly the lake may become very deep. Some places it may be shallow. So people may be in trouble. So that's why they will build steps so that people can easily approach one by one without getting it. Suppose people do not know swimming, they should not be in trouble. So the steps will gradually lead you to the depth of the pond or the lake. So that steps helping you to get into the pond or the river. Even in the rivers, they will build such things. If you go to Ganga, if you go to Kashi, if you go to Haridwar, there will be ghats, different ghats. Like in Kashi, they call it Manikarnika Ghat, Harishchandra Ghat. So all those things are the steps which have been made easy so that people can, at different places to the river, enter any river, any pond. If there are steps for them to enter in and take bath or do whatever work there in the pond, that's called ghat. So Sanskrit name is Ghatta. It comes from the Sanskrit word Ghatta. Later on, due to Apabhramsha, people started using as ghat. So now you can also see there may be some pond, or there might have been the river flowing there. There was some ghat, so you can say Kali Ghat. So the place where the Kali temple is there. Now, but presently, Kolkata, that gets the name, the Kolkata, then later on now Kolikata. So that gets the name from Kali Ghat, the place where the famous temple is there, Kali, Mother Kali. So Ghat, Ghatta, it comes from the word Ghatta. So now people of Kamarpukur use that thing, that lake or pond, for many purposes. It had two bathing ghats, one for the men and the other for the women. As all of you know, very rarely in very rich people's houses, there would be the toilets and bathrooms near the house. So now all the people used to come in these open places in the ponds and take bath, whether men or women, in the river or the ponds. So that was a system in those days. So it has two bathing ghats, one for the men and other for the women. Young boys like Gadadhar would very often use the ghat reserved for women, because young children used to go with their mothers. And so all the children will gather there and they will start playing. For them, that is not anything serious things to happen there. So they used to go with their mothers, the young children, and play there in the pond or the lake. So young boys like Gadadhar is now something like 6 years old. He's very young. So young boys like Gadadhar would very often use the ghats reserved for women. Coming one day for a bath to that ghat with a few boys of his own age, Gadadhar started jumping and swimming in the water and made himself a nuisance to the women who had come there to take bath. So Gadadhar and his party, the small young boys group, so they went to that pond and there they started jumping, so making fun and being naughty. And all the other women who were taking bath, it became a nuisance, because they were small children, they cannot understand. They are very innocent and they are very ignorant. So they go, jump and do all mischiefs. Boys of age group 5, 6, 7. So coming one day for a bath to that ghat with a few boys of his own age, Gadadhar started jumping and swimming in the water and made himself a nuisance to the women who had come there to bathe. Elderly women who were occupied with their daily prayers. So they come after taking bath, they will sit there and they will do their puja, vrata, or their daily prayers, japa, immediately after that. Some places, sometime there will be a vrata where you have to sit down in the same wet cloth after taking bath, even not changing that cloth, the wet cloth, you have to sit and do japa. Some vratas will be there like that. So most of the elderly women were sitting there on the ghat, on the steps, and maybe they were worshipping their deities or something which the Guru has given the japa, they were performing the japa. So whatever religious activities, they used to do that on the bank of the pond. So elderly women who were occupied with their daily prayers and other devotions found that now and then a little water was being splashed over them. Why? Because Gadadhar and his party, the small children, they were frolicking, jumping into the water, splashing the water. And so that water used to come and fall on them or on their puja articles, and it would disturb them. Now, a sort of, in olden days, you can see even nowadays, the elderly women who follow religious things very strictly, they don't allow anybody to touch their person or touch their vessels so that it will get unclean, impure. So that is called some sort of olden days quarantining, social distancing. So now again, after this coronavirus, we are getting back that quarantining and social distancing. Then it was observed in the name of religion, though it was for the same purpose, health and hygiene. See, anything stretched, Swami Vivekananda tells, any practices, any good practices, stretched to the extremities will become a positive evil practice. I will again quote that saying of Swami Vivekananda, any good practices stretched to the extremity will become, when you take anything to extremes, will become a positive evil practice. So like that, then the sages and the seers of the old, they knew that Indians will not take anything unless given religiously. So even scientific things, if you tell about bacteria and virus, they will come and attack you, then you will get those viruses. So you have to do social distancing. Scientifically, if you put in, the common mass would not believe in it. So the only way was to give it religiously. They would give a religious turn. And in the name of God and religion, if you give, Indians will take it very quickly. So whatever you want to give, you give religiously in India and they will take. So that's what Swami Vivekananda tells. The Prana Pakshi, the life-giving bird of India and Hindus is in their religion, dharma. What is the statement where Swami Vivekananda tells, now different countries have different goals in their life or their Prana Pakshi. You know, in olden days in Indian stories, there would be a demon, Rakshasa. However, the great courageous people used to come and fight with him. They couldn't kill him. Even if they would cut his head, they cut his hand, he would not die again. He would come back to life. Why? Because his life was somewhere protected. You have to go cross 7 seas. Then there will be an island. So in that island, there would be a big fort. In that fort, there would be so many strong demons guarding. And you have to fight with them and go inside. If you go, there will be a palace. Inside the palace, again guarded by so many ghosts and demons. There would be one parrot in a cage. And if you hurt, the life of this demon was in that parrot. So if you hurt this parrot, then the demon here, even without anybody hurting him physically, would get hurt. If you cut the wings of the parrot, here his hands will cut. If you do any harm, then to the parrot, here he will, our great demon will get harmed. So like that, if you cut off the head or kill that parrot, then this demon will die here. So that story you would have heard in your younger days, or even nowadays, if you read some such stories, you can find it. So that's called Prana Pakshi. The life force, the life bird of somebody will be somewhere like this, the demons. So like that, countries like England, Swami Vivekananda used to tell their Prana Pakshi, their goal, all their life will be in politics. Suppose you go to America, USA, United States of America, all their life force, the Prana Pakshi is in business, capitalism, making money, marketing, so all that. Suppose you go to some other country, it will be like Russia. Once upon a time, it was communism, was their force, life force. Presently, like in China, in some other country, it will be military. Some other country, some other things. So what is that to India and Hindus? The Prana Pakshi, the life-giving force is in religion, dharma. You can't take the meaning of religion because in Western concept, religion is completely different. In India, it's called as dharma. So it is in dharma. So it has a very deep and it has a very high meaning. Dharma means it's not like religion of Western concept. So you should not misunderstand religion to dharma. Yeah, concept of religion is also there in dharma, but it is something higher. It has so many other broad meaning in it. Okay, we shall not go to that. So now coming back to that Prana Pakshi or that life force is in dharma. So Whatever you tell according to dharmics means, according to God and according to the religion, then only people used to practice it, follow it. Otherwise, you give it scientifically, you give it something in a different tone, bacteria, virus, they would not follow it. So our rishis and munis and saints had given all these practices, and it was practiced and it was taken to the extremes and stretched, and they would not allow anybody to touch them. They would not allow certain group of people to come to their house, touch them. All those practices went to the extremes and it became an evil practice. But in reality, that was quarantining, that was what you call social distancing. So given religiously, so extremely stretched, it became a evil practice. But now again, it is coming scientifically, and people are doing their social distancing. Now nobody will obstruct. Oh, this is something concerned with caste and jati and other things. And now they're keeping quiet. Why? Because they know that it is virus and scientific. So now the same social distancing, the same quarantining, everything is done only scientifically because you know what is the reason. Then the rishis and munis knew the reason. They knew that the Indian masses would not take, the common masses, uneducated masses would not take anything without religion. So they gave it through religion. But over the period of thousands and thousands of years of age, that being stretched extremely, it has become it became an evil practice. Now scientifically it is coming back again. So I think after coronavirus, you can see nobody will be shaking hands. Nobody will be embracing in the Western standards here in South Africa. I see the first thing is they will shake their hands. Then anybody and everybody will embrace each other. Now you can't do that. Now it has been replaced by another, this thing, what do you call? Touching their elbows like this. Or else they will shake hand. It's not shake hand, shaking legs, not even shaking. They will just kick each other's boots or legs, that's all. So now many of them, most of them are coming to the Indian system of doing namaste. So distance maintained, social distancing maintained of 1 meter or 1.5 meters. And from there you fold your hands and tell namaste. So most people are taking back, bringing back all those practices of olden days India scientifically, all that social distancing and things. So these women were practicing religiously all the social distancing, quarantining. Nobody should come, nobody should touch them after they took the bath, because they thought they would be pure now, so they should think of God. So they would not allow, especially the old ladies who were strictly practicing all the religious practices. So they used to do that thing. So if now imagine the boys are playing and the water will fall, splash on their puja articles, and it will splash on their faces, on their head. Now they have taken bath and again they have to take bath, they have to wash all the vessels. So naturally they will get irritated. So now they do not know who these children are, the manifestation of God. So all the children are manifestation of God. So now Gadadhar, especially avatar of Vishnu, has come there. How could they know? So they got angry. That old lady, many old ladies were there who were doing their puja and other vratas. So now elderly women who were occupied with their daily prayers and their devotions found that now and then a little water was being splashed over them. Not only this, the small children were boisterous, shouting, jumping, shrieking. You know how the children will play. You will enjoy the play. But now they are practicing. The old ladies are not interested in that. They are now concentrating, focusing on their puja, devotion. So now they got disturbed. So now the elderly ladies, some of them got up, they got irritated. So therefore they asked the boys to stop their play. But they would not listen. Will the children listen if you tell something? They go on continuing. You know how the children behave. Then some of the elderly ladies shouted at those boys, "Why do you come here? Can't you go to the men's ghat? Go there to the other side of the ghat. There only men will be there. You can't go, jump and do whatever you want. You know that this ghat." So though that thing is not there, the children could come there. The mothers used to bring the children. They were so small. But even then, now that old lady, because they were not stopping their nuisance and their mischief and jumping and splashing and their sounds, shouting. So just to chase away those boys, without anything, she told, "Why do you come to the women's ghat here? Can't you go to the men's ghat there and do whatever you want?" And I did this. One of the women scolded them, saying, "Why do you come here? Can't you go to the men's ghat? Here, women wash their clothes, and after their bath, you should know that women must not be seen undressed. So now the children there, they asked that lady, especially Gadadhar, why not? Why should we not see women in that way? Instead of making him understand, because this small boy of 5 or 6 is so ignorant, is so innocent, is telling why not? Why should we not see in that way? What will happen? Instead of making him understand. Now see, this is the present day, the parents will behave like this. You should make them understand. I told you yesterday, I explained. We should not only teach children what not to do, but we should teach them why not to do and how not to do. Then they will follow whatever you tell. Because all through the ages now, thousands and thousands of years, the children are being taught by the parents what not to do. If the children ask them, why should we not do that? How should we do that? They will get angry, they will scold them, or they will punish them. Do as we tell. Do not ask us how and why, because they do not know themselves. So what will they tell? They will get angry. Their parents were telling, their elders were telling, so we are telling you, follow it. That's all. They themselves do not know. They will not take the pain of understanding what it is. For example, I give you one of our great saints in Bangalore. He is now still living. He is more than 91 years. Revered Srimad Swami Harshanandaji Maharaj. So from his time, childhood, he was very much interested in knowing many things about Hinduism. So he used to go and ask elders. Even after joining the Ramakrishna Mission as a, the brahmacharin, he used to go and ask many seniors, elders, what is the meaning of this? Why do we practice this? Why do we practice that? The elders could not reply. Many great scholars were there. The intricate things they could not reply. So now, Revered Harshanandaji Maharaj was disturbed. What is this? So he didn't keep quiet. He didn't do the same mistake. He started analyzing, he started researching, he started going deep into that matter, studying, learning from different pundits, and he himself meditating on that, taking up that subject. So he went on collecting. This should not be the case of the next generation. We should give something. So that inspired him, because he wanted to know. People couldn't tell. They didn't know the meaning. So he did a lot of research, asked some of the senior sages. He learned it from different great realized souls, like Revered Yatishwaranandaji Maharaj, like Revered Tyagishanandaji Maharaj, and so many other, his own guru, Revered Virajanandaji Maharaj. So he asked, they got collected, and he himself researched, read the books, and then thought over it, and then meditated over it, did a lot of project work like that, and then found, finally, after 36 years, he brought out a series of big books. And what is that called? Encyclopedia of Hinduism. You know, encyclopedia. So, Encyclopedia of Britannica, Encyclopedia of so many other things you can get. There was no Encyclopedia of Hinduism. He bought that, and still he is working on that at this age, fag end of his life, 91, 92 years. He still goes to younger Pandits. Pandits means scholars who are expert in certain field. Suppose he doesn't know, because Hinduism is a vast area. So he goes to those Pandits, make them come there, pay them money. Just like a student, 91-year-old great saint, that Swami, in that age, he's so elderly, he sits like a disciple with those young Pandits, because they are experts in that particular field. He may be not knowing that particular field, so he will learn, he will write it down, make notes, he will himself study that in this old age, 92 years, 91 years. Then he will sit, meditate on that, pray to God, get some meaning, deeper meaning, and write down the articles on that. It's going on increasing now. A to Z, he had completed everything, Encyclopedia of Hinduism. Some new subjects may come. Immediately he sits, he works on it. The 4th volume has already come. 3 volumes were already there. Now the 4th big volume of Encyclopedia has already come. But still he's working on that. So like that, he wanted to contribute something to Hinduism. He didn't make the same mistake like our earlier elderly people, parents now, these old women are doing. You should learn, you should know why, how, and teach the younger generation so that they can continue forward. So we just are not interested in that. We just want to just blindly follow all the things. So I remember the great statement of Swami Vivekananda. What is that? Every one of us, including me, everyone, Swami Vivekananda tells, waste 80% of our energy. Every one of us waste 80% of our energy in showing to the world what we are not. It becomes a show off. It becomes something like hypocrisy. 80% of our energy is wasted in showing to the world what we are not. So we go on showing off that we know so much of good English. We try to show off that we know so much of science, so much of religion. We put on the external insignias. So external show off, we know many things, but in reality we do not know anything. We know very little. But we show off as if we know so many things. 80% of our energy is being wasted in showing to the world what we are not. Then this is corroborated by present day psychology. Vivekananda told this 125 years back. But present psychology is corroborating that all of us are wasting 80% of our energy in showing to the world what we are not. I explained what it is. But Swami Vivekananda goes forward and gives you the solution. It not only gives the problem, but he will give you the solution too. I see in our places everywhere in South Africa and India, many people are ready to show us the problem. They will just bring problems and problems and problems. Then in the meeting and other places we ask, please give the solution. You are ready to give the problem. Yes, we can also find the problem. Anybody can find the problem. Can't you give the solution? Nobody is ready to give the solution. They are interested only in giving the problems. Why can't you give the solution? No, nobody is interested. They don't want that. Just they are expert in giving problems. That's all. So now here, Vivekananda is giving the solution to the problem. He has told this problem and now we'll give the solution. 80%, we are wasting 80% of our energy in showing to the world what we are not. Then what is the solution? If we had used half of that 80% of energy, 40% of that energy, what we are wasting to show off to the world that we are experts in some field or something, if we had used half of that energy to become what we wanted to be, we would have easily achieved that. We waste so much of our energy in showing to the world what we are not. But if we had used half of that energy, not even complete, we're wasting 80% of your energy. If you had used half of that energy to become what you wanted to be in particular field you are showing off, then you would have become an expert. You would have become a proficient person in that field. Only if you had used half of that energy. Instead of that, you're just wasting our energy. We are doing that just to show off. You tell a lie, and to cover up that lie, you have to remember that lie. You have to remember the 100 lies you have told earlier. You have showed off something, or otherwise you will be caught. So much of energy is wasted. But if you tell the truth, no waste of energy at all. You can be just calm and quiet and happy. Why are you worried? Because you told a lie. To cover up that lie, you have to tell another lie. Then series of lies. Then you have to remember all those 100 lies. Because you'll be caught otherwise. The same question is asked again, you are caught. You do not know first time what lie you told. So it goes on, vicious circle. So you're wasting your energy. But the solution is if you start telling the truth, it will take less energy. Now, you will need not have to worry. You can focus on so many other good things. Your energy can be used in so many good things. Truthfulness, you be truthful, then there is no wastage of energy. You can be calm. You can tell the same truth again and again. There is no problem at all. No hiding business. That's what we have to learn from Gadadhar. That's what we have to learn from the father of Gadadhar, that is Shuddharam Chattopadhyaya. Now, the solution, I have told the problem, we waste 80% of our energy in showing to the world what we want it to be, what we are not, sorry. We waste 80% of our energy in showing to the world what we are not. What is the solution given by Swamiji? If we had used half of that energy to become what we wanted to be, we would have easily achieved that. So let us give up that older practice and now use that energy in showing off to the world, half of that energy, even full of that energy, to become what we wanted to be. We can easily achieve that. We shall now change. Now, here that Swamiji, he wrote that beautiful volumes. He came to know the problem. Why people are not knowing anything about Hinduism. I should do some research. And he did it. You know what was that? This thing, how many years it took it? 36 years of his tapasya. Hard work, discipline. He collected, he wrote, he researched. Every time he used to go meditate on that, think on that, and then write an article. And that's why if you read that Encyclopedia of Hinduism, you'll see so much of knowledge hidden there. Everything, A to Z, whatever you want in Hinduism. It may be, the letter may start with B. Then you go there, you find everything. Not just meaning. A full, complete article of where you can get, which book you can refer. What is the meaning of that? Complete encyclopedia is there. So like that, he didn't make the mistake of like this, our elders and ourselves, we are also doing the same mistake. So what did this lady do? Instead of telling them why and how, when the child asked why not, Gadadhar asked why not, instead of making him understand, she began to scold him. That's what our elders do. We are also doing to our children. When we do not know, we want to cover that up. I do not know. You could have told, I do not know at present. There are many good teachers. When they are confronted by problem by the students on particular subject, maybe in mathematics, maybe in physics, at that time he may be not knowing. He'll sincerely apologize. He will tell students, I do not know it now. Please wait. I will cover up the portions today. I'll go to the lab or I'll go to the library. I will clear up. I will bring a solution to your problem and present it to you tomorrow or some other day. They'll be sincere. They will not hide it. I know it. Why are you asking that question? You idiot, you fool, you do not know. Keep quiet. And they may punish them. They may hit them or do something rude to them. Why? They want to cover up their ignorance. So that is not to be done here. Now what happened? Instead of making him understand, she began to scold him all the more. Seeing that the women were annoyed and fearing that they would complain to their parents, the boys started behaving better. But Gadadhar hit upon a plan. You know that Gadadhar would, whatever he used to take up, he would not leave it unfinished until so he gets a correct answer. Yesterday we read, I told the great qualities of Gadadhar. I listed them 1, 2, 3, 4. So like that, whatever he thought he wants to know until it was complete, any job he takes up, he would never give up until completed. He would not rest till he accomplished what he had undertaken. So that was one of the great natures of Gadadhar. Now he asked for that. Why? Then he did not get the answer. She started scolding. Now he wanted to know why. Until he comes to know the correct answer, he would not give up. So what did this boy of 5 or 6 Gadadhar do? It may look very surprising, but you should know that age of Gadadhar is just 5 or 6, such innocence. Seeing that the women were annoyed and fearing that they would complain to their parents, the boy behaved better. But Gadadhar hit upon a plan. For 2 or 3 days, he hid himself behind a tree near the tank and peeped at the women while they were taking their bath. When later he met the elderly woman again on the way or somewhere else who had scolded him, he went and told her, day before yesterday, I saw 4 women bathing, yesterday 6 and today 8. But I find that nothing has happened to me. You told that you should not see women in that way. But today it happened like this. Yesterday I went and saw there. And day before yesterday I saw so many. And nothing has happened to me. You told something will happen, something is going to happen. Nothing happened to me. You didn't tell me that day also you got angry and scolded me. He told her, day before yesterday I saw 4 women bathing, yesterday 6 and today 8. But I find that nothing has happened to me. Now she thereupon came to Chandra Devi. Now she was upset again. She came to Chandra Devi, now the mother. Just like Lord Krishna, when he was boy of 5 or 6, used to go and steal butter. Used to go do a lot of mischief with the gopikas, other gopikas there. So all of them will come with their broken pots and stolen butter and stolen milk and all splashed and dirty thing. They used to come with a complaint 6 or 7 every day. Our mother of Krishna, that is the mother who looked after, real mother was Devaki. Now, the one who is bringing up Krishna is Yashoda. So they would come with a big complaint. This, your Krishna has done this, your Krishna has done that. So now she was from a rich family. She used to compensate them with so many other things, then console them, tell good things about Krishna. So this was a regular affair. Every day there would be a big list of complaints, gopis coming to complain. Most of the time it was not the reason that they want to come and see Krishna. That was the reason they used to come there. The small child, baby, blue-colored Krishna, they wanted to see them. So they used to come there in the guise of complaining. Now here this old lady came and complained and told Chandra Devi, that elder woman who had scolded, so that now when Gadadhar came and told her, these things have happened, nothing happened to me, you told that something will happen, but I find that nothing has happened to me. She thereupon came to Chandra and told her laughingly what the boy had said. She too was not serious that day. Just she wanted that those small children should go away, they should not disturb her, that's all. That was the only intention. So she lied that you boys should not come here. You go to the men's guard, and if you see something is going to happen and other things, she showed dash to escape. So we should never cover up ourselves, the truth, with a falsehood. Then you see all these things will happen. If you are frank, if you are straight, if you are told the reason, find out that and told with loving care to the child would have not done that. We are creating problem. We are now spoiling our children, because by giving the wrong things, telling them lies, or threatening them, or by punishing them, we are making them whatever we see them becoming. So it's our fault. We have to know the truth. We should tell them the truth. If you do not know the truth, gladly accept, I do not know about this. Please, you can find it out, or I'll try to ask some people and get you back. You tell that, the children will be very happy. They will not become like that. They will not learn falsehood. If you start punishing them, getting angry, then they will take the wrong means. So you can see that Gadadhar is teaching us parents, and is teaching the children how we should be truthful and straightforward, not at the same time not hurting others. That is very, very important. In the guise of being straightforward and telling the truth, we many times ignore all the other factors and become very harsh. So that also should be taken care. In the name of straightforwardness and telling the truth, we should not hurt others too. That's what Lord Krishna is told in Mahabharata. What is that? Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat, satyam apriyam. You have to tell the truth. You should never give up truth. You have to tell the truth. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. But the truth should be priyam. It should not be hurting anybody. It should be very soothing. So even while you are telling the truth, if it may be hurtful, you have to make it in such a way that it will not hurt others. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat, satyam apriyam. You should not tell a truth which is hurting others. Not that Krishna is telling that you should tell an untruth or falsehood, but he's telling you should not tell it. Means keep quiet, you can keep mum. Shut your mouth. You need not tell it. So that is what Krishna is telling. Satyam bruyat, you have to tell the truth. Priyam bruyat, it should be very soothing, it should not be hurting. Na bruyat, you should not tell a truth which is hurting. Not that he's telling na bruyat means you should tell an untruth, but he's telling keep quiet, you can keep quiet. You don't tell a truth which is hurtful, which will hurt others. Because in every person it is the Atman who is present. It's the Lord. It's Narayana. It is Shiva, which is present in everybody. So if you tell the harsh things, it will be hurting them. So though it is a truth, keep quiet. Don't tell an untruth. Again, don't confuse and tell that Swamiji has told you can do that. No, I'm not giving a license for you to tell a untruth. They keep quiet. That's all. Okay, going forward. Now, she knew that she was not serious. So now she's laughingly telling Chandramani Devi what happened the whole day there in that bathing guard. She thereupon came to Chandra and told her laughingly what the boy had said. Now, Chandra Devi was disturbed a little. The boy is behaving this way at an opportune moment, but she didn't scold. Other mothers would have taken their child if he had done like that. and beaten them right and left, and then they might have even taken some hot things and put a mark on them too. In olden days, these were the punishments. They put a hot mark on the children to deter them from something, and some people also used to put some, what you call, chili, burn the chili and give them the smoke of the chili. So many wonderful punishments were there in olden days. So like that, other people would have done that. But what did Chandramani do? How did she teach the child? We have to learn from Chandra Devi. We have to learn from Kshudiram. How to teach the children, how to bring the children up. She didn't get angry. Though she was little unsettled, she became a little disturbed by the behavior of Gadadhar. But now, how did she correct Gadadhar? Let us see, let us enjoy that how Chandramani Devi, with so much of innocence, with so much of other things, what good qualities she had. We have to note that. We have to inculcate those good qualities into us. At least it may not be possible in a day or two. You can gradually think on that, read it again and again, get new light, and then inculcate. We can introduce those things, method of teaching. The teachers, the parents, the mothers can get the cue from here. Let us see what beautiful way she will devise to bring back Gadadhar to the right proper method. Okay. She thereupon came to Chandra Devi and told her laughingly what the boy had said at an opportune moment. So she immediately didn't react. Another mistake we do is we get angry, we get wild, and immediately we go and react, we punish them or do something. So you should not react. There is a wonderful saying I have told in the Gita class and other places too. So what is that? We should never react. What are we to do then? We should respond. Reaction is always reflexive in nature. It is instinctive, just like animals react. They don't wait. But human beings with intelligence and good wisdom, they respond. They will take time, think properly, and then come to the situation and deal the situation in a very cool and calm mind. That is response. React means the moment you hear something, you get disturbed. In that disturbed state of mind, immediately without reason or rhyme, you just come and react. You may punish them or be harsh or do something because in the fit of an anger, in the fit of that moment, you do something. That is reaction. That is animal behavior. It's instinctive. It is reflexive. But this now you can see Chandramani Devi waited for the right time, opportune time. That's why you can see it is response. She thought over it. How can I correct my child? How can I give my child the correct way? She thought and waited for the opportune moment. So it's not reaction. It is response. How did she deal with that? Now she told Gadadhar, she waited for the opportune moment. Chandra spoke to Gadadhar gently. Note the word. Chandra spoke to Gadadhar gently, but in a convincing manner. See the wonderful combination. So that's why when one of the great scholars, Bhavabhuti or somebody has written this, describing about Divine Mother, the correct taking this thing from the Divine Mother. What should be a real personality like? Should be always namby-pamby, soft and always on the what we call defensive thing? No. What is the right personality? The example is taken of Divine Mother. Whenever the need arises, when she has to punish the ruffians, the demons, when she has to punish the bad guys like Mahishasura, the great demons, then Chanda Munda and other things, she become more harder than a diamond. She will use the weapons, kill them, punish them when they are ruffians, when they are bad guys. So she becomes harder than the diamond. But when she has to deal with her children, good people, sadhus, then she becomes softer than a flower. So what is the real personality, how it should be? So in Sanskrit it is told, Mruduni Kusumadapi, Vajradapi Kathorani. So the real personality is Vajradapi Kathorani. You should be firmer, stronger than the diamond. No object on this earth is stronger than the diamond. Even to cut stones, granite stones, they use diamond. So to cut many things, diamond is used. So to cut glasses, to cut granite stones, it can cut anything. It's the hardest, it is the strongest diamond. So it is just carbon. So like that, you should be harder, you should be firmer than the diamond. That is the real personality whenever the situation arises. But whenever it is needed, you should be softer than the flower. Mruduni, mrudu means soft. Mruduni means softer than. Kusumadapi, than a flower. So that is the real personality. What is that? Whenever a situation arises, you have to deal with the bad people. You have to deal with something dangerous situation. Be firm or firmer than a diamond. Vajradapi Kathorani. Whenever you have to deal with children, whenever you have to deal with good people, sadhus, be softer than the flower. That is the real personality of men or women, anybody. This is told about Divine Mother. Divine Mother was like that. She is the mother of all. But when demons come, when the ruffians come, when the bad people come, she would become more stronger than the diamond. Vajradapi Kathorani Murduni Kusumadapi. So now I repeated it again and again so that you can know what the real nature should be. We should be like that. Always being harsh, always being, jumping and beating others, punishing others. That is not right thing. We should follow Divine Mother. So whenever it is required, with the ruffians, with the bad people, be firmer than the diamond, be strong. There we become like small foxes and run away. But in the house, with the good people, you show off that you are great and you try to punish them. The wrong things we do, but the right things should be done. That is what here we learn. So how beautifully see Chandramani Devi is combining these two qualities in such a way. How is she? What is she doing? At an opportune moment, the first thing you have to be noting is at the opportune moment. She is sure, she is thought, she waited. At the opportune moment, Chandra Devi spoke to Gadadhar gently, combination of beautiful character. Gently, but in a convincing manner. Firm. She spoke to Gadadhar gently, but in a convincing manner. Now she is telling, note the words of Chandra Devi, Gadai. So the short form of Gadai, sweetly they used to call Gadadhar as Gadai. It is true. Nothing will happen to you when you do that, when you see women while bathing. Nothing will happen to you. But the mothers, the women will feel insulted. Nothing may happen to you. But to those mothers, the women whom you see, will feel insulted. Now, another beautiful way of how she connects, you have to see here. They are, all those women, in no way different from me. They are in no way different from me, your mother. So all the women are in no way different from your mother, that is me. And so, if you insult them, it is the same as insulting me. In future, don't do anything that would hurt their sense of honor. Wow, what a wonderful way she is putting it. If you insult anybody, any woman for that sake, it will be like insulting me. In all of them, it is me who is present. In all the women, it is your mother, Chandra Devi. So if you insult them, if you hurt them, it is just like hurting me, your mother. Wow, what a beautiful way she is expressing. In future, don't do anything that would hurt their sense of honor. Is it right to wound their feelings, which is the same as wounding mine? This the boy could understand, and he never again behaved that way. Wow, we have to write this in the teaching of Chandra Devi, we have to copy it down. and put it in a board for all the parents and teachers. Even the context also. The children should read, the parents should read, the teachers should read, especially the teachers when they are handling the students. So beautiful way, Chandramani Devi. You think Chandramani had some PhDs and postdoctorate fellows, or she had master degrees? No, she was uneducated. Maybe she knew maybe some Bengali letters, that's all. What is real education? This is real education. Education is the manifestation of perfection which is already within man. Is education collection of information? Is education collection of facts? If collection of facts and information would be real education, then libraries would have been better professors. Then at the present day, these were the words of Swami Vivekananda. I quoted it. Now I am just adding. If collection of information was real education, then the hard disks, which has more information of gigabytes and terabytes, would have become better professors. But with less information, it is a human being which is called a professor or a teacher. So it is a character which counts. It's not the information. It's not the degrees and master degrees. What degree did Chandramani Devi had? And how did she train the child? What a wonderful way that is to be learnt. That is real character. That is real education. So that is our real Hindu tradition. That's our Sanatana Dharma. That is our Hinduism. How our mother trained their children. We have to learn. Yeah, again, I will read that because it's very, very important. First of all, it was not a reaction. It was a response. So what did she do? At an opportune moment, Chandra spoke to Gadadhar gently, but in a convincing manner. She's telling Gadadhar, Gadai, it is true that nothing will happen to you when you do that. When you go and see those women while bathing, nothing is going to happen to you. But those women will be insulted. They are no different from me. Are they different from me? In all the women, me, your mother exists. It's the same mother. It's me who is existing in everybody. They are no way different from me. And so, if you insult them, it is the same as insulting me. If you insult them, it is same as insulting me, your mother. In future, don't do anything that would hurt their sense of honor. In future, don't do anything that would hurt their sense of honor. Is it right to wound their feelings? Is it right to wound the feelings of the women, which is the same as wounding mine? This the boy would understand, and he never again behaved that way. You have to note that here, that hurting any women for that sake, at any time, is like hurting the Divine Mother herself or your own mother. That's what Chandramani Devi is telling. Now, see, this is called faith. What is faith? We all know, we believe, we hear so many things from so many people, from the scriptures, from the guru, from the elders, from the parents. But do we put it into practice? We hear in one of the ears and give it up in another ear. We forget it. Yeah, we have that. When somebody again reiterates that, we tell, oh, we know, I know. I know that. You need not tell me. I know that. We tell that. But have you put it into practice? That is very, very important. That is very, very important. Have you practiced it? So that is called faith. Belief is something different from faith. In Sanskrit, the word is, in Hinduism, it's called Shraddha. Shraddha. So with Shraddha, you can gain anything. You can get the highest with Shraddha. So Shraddha is very, very important. So whatever you hear, the good things, inculcate that, internalize it, and put it into practice in your day-to-day life. That is Shraddha. That's why I always name it as belief in action. I've got that saying in English, that is belief in action is Shraddha or faith. So a belief will be a belief until you put it into practice. It has not come to your heart, it has not come to your action. So that is still a belief. Yeah, I believe it. I know that. But have you practiced it? Internalized that? Then it is faith, Shraddha. So just like that religion, the word, and dharma, the word faith in English and Shraddha in Sanskrit has ocean of difference. Shraddha is something very, very high. So now I remember one more beautiful story told by none other than Ramakrishna himself. I want to tell you and make it more meaningful because this incident is very, very important. We cannot ignore it just like some incident in everyday happening. We have to go deeper. We have to understand it and we have to internalize it. We have to learn it. So that's why when Chandramani Devi responded, waited for the opportune moment and taught Gadadhar in this way, I immediately remember how and the way Gadadhar took it. Did he? Now you can note it. After hearing from that, I will now take to the life of Ramakrishna after. We will be getting that in this study itself. But now we will go a little forward. Now the scene, now the cinema which we are showing, the Ramakrishna cinema or the Leela of the Lord, we will just forward it a little, go forward, maybe to some 30 or 40 year hence from where now the childhood of Gadadhar, it is now Gadadhar may be 5 or 6 years old. We will now go to when Ramakrishna he has become elderly. Now maybe he is 40 years old or 35 years old. He is married to Mother Sharda Devi, and Mother Sharda Devi was then 5 years while at the time of marriage. Now she has become 14 or 16, something like that. She has come from Jairambati to serve Ramakrishna. While serving Ramakrishna, while pressing the feet, massaging the feet of Ramakrishna, so Mother Sharda Devi is asking, how do you look at me? What is the way? What is your attitude towards me? What was the reply of Ramakrishna? Ramakrishna told, the mother who gave birth to me, that is the present heroine now, Chandramani Devi, whom we are observing her character, beautiful character, Chandramani Devi. Somebody should take up just the life of Chandramani Devi and make a movie or a story has to be written. Then people can understand every intricate thing has to be magnified and showed to the world. We take so many other nonsense and make cinemas and make dramas and other things. This beautiful character has to be magnified and shown. So now, what did Ramakrishna reply then? He told the biological mother, the mother Chandramani Devi who gave birth to this body, and the mother who is in Dakshineshwar, that he was in Dakshineshwar, but Bhavatarani temple, inside the temple, who is that? His Ishtadevata, Divine Mother Durga or Kali or Parvati, Umadevi, whatever you call. That, and here another mother who is sitting and pressing my legs. I don't see, that is Mother Sharda Devi. That is his own wife. I don't see any difference in three of them. What is that? My Mother Chandra Devi and you Sharda Devi. My Divine Mother, the real mother of this world, universe, universal mother, Durga or Kali or whatever you tell, and yourself, Sharda Devi. I don't see any difference. They're all the same to me. How could she get this knowledge? It's the faith of that Gadadhar. When that Chandramani Devi told that truth, when Chandramani Devi told him these words, that if you hurt anybody, again I will repeat the words of Chandramani Devi. What is the word of Chandramani Devi? It is true, nothing will happen to you when you do that, but women will feel insulted. I'm getting disturbed by the noise of the background. Somebody has put on the mic. I can hear the vessel sound in the kitchen and vessel sound maybe in the bathroom or something. So it is disturbing my focus. I request any particular devotee has put on the mic, put it off because I'm hearing the tap sound, the vessel sound and everything. It is taking away my concentration. Will you please reduce that volume? Okay, thank you for that. So now, going forward, I will read it again, what Chandramani Devi told Gadadhar at the age of 5 or 6. What was that? It is true, nothing will happen to you when you do that, but women will feel insulted. They are in no way different from me. And so, if you insult them, it is the same as insulting me. In future, don't do anything that would hurt their sense of honor. Is it right to wound their feelings, which is the same as wounding mine? So, after hearing that, how much of faith did Gadadhar have in the words of his mother? The way convincingly mother told it, so nicely she put it without scolding. The words of the mother went deep into the heart of Gadadhar, and he started practicing it all through his life. So that is called faith. Now the mother will tell a stranger coming there, the child, she will instruct, see, he is your brother. Will the child have any doubt about it? From then onwards, when the mother tells he is your brother, he may be a stranger, then that child will start then just simply behaving with him just like his brother. He doesn't have any doubt in it. So, belief, the words of the, again another this thing for Shraddha given in our scriptures is faith in the words of Guru, faith in the words of scriptures. So that is called Shraddha. So now faith in the word of mother, whatever mother told or any elders tell or Guru tells. So now Gadadhar, because he had faith, Shraddha, he took it so deeply. And in his life afterwards, he never went contrary to that. He would never hurt any woman. He would see women as his own biological mother. And later on, when he realized Divine Mother, he would see Divine Mother in all of them. But now, the moment she told that it is his own biological mother in every other woman, he started treating from that day every woman as his own mother, Chandramani Devi. So that answer after maybe 30 years or 40 years hence, we are seeing in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, when Sharda Devi asked him, how do you look, with what attitude do you see me? The biological mother, that is Chandramani Devi, who is living there in the Nahabat, on the top of the Nahabat, and the Dakshineshwar temple, the Bhavatarani Devi, that is Mother Kali, or the Divine Mother, Durga, and you, Sharda Mani. I see no difference, I see the same. So, where the secret lies here, the training of the mother here, at the time of age of 5 or 6. So the words of mother, the firm and gentle and the sweet words of mother made this possible. So you can see how the training matters, how you should wait, respond, not react, not get angry, wait for the opportune time, the way, the methodology you can learn, and they will never forget, the children will never forget. Why are now children growing up to become violent? Why are they doing so much of harm to their own wife, to their own children, to their own daughters, and to the other women? Why there is so much of violence? Because it is the bounden duty of the mother. It's the bounden duty of the father, especially mother, to train them, to show them that in all women, it is the same mother present. Then all this violence can come down. So everything is in the hand of the mothers only. To reduce the violence, to reduce the other bad things happening there in the world. We see so much fear in the news that can be reduced if the children are trained like this. Why are we not giving this truth? Why are we not teaching the children this truth? If they are taught, so you can see so much of problems can be solved in this world. We are not taking the right means. We have become secular. We are just want to give, just money making is the goal. And so they ignore all these things. They don't learn morality. So teach them these great truths, which Mother Chandramani Devi using that methodology. So I remember another thing. So Gadadhar's faith also is an answer too. So we should also teach children the faith, to put that into practice immediately when the mother tells, when the elders tell, when the Guru tells, the teachings, the good things you read from the books, you have to put it into practice immediately. That is called faith. So faith of Gadadhar. And because he's a small child, like any other child, all the children will have the same faith. And the methodology of teaching to the children, putting it in the right perspective of Mother Chandra Devi, combined together, will bring in a beautiful society and beautiful generation of children who will grow up to become the next citizens. And you see the country will shine, the whole nation will be in a better condition than what we can see. So it's in your hand, mothers. It is in your hand, teachers. It is in your hand, the parents, the fathers. Now use this methodology. So again, I remember another story of Ramakrishna, which I want to reiterate, which is very, very important. Might be I have told it, but here in this context, it will be more meaningful. I will tell that story or happening told by Ramakrishna himself. We all know that story of Ganesha. Ganesha was also a child like this, Gadadhar, very similar. He was a small child like Gadadhar, 5 or 6. Then Ganesha was playfully going here and there. So he found a she-cat, just like Gadadhar went to that bathing ghat there, and something like it happened out of innocence and ignorance. It's not ignorance, I'm sorry, it is innocence. And it is the childlike nature. The children do not have this cruelty or something. It is just out of innocence. So here, Ganesha, as a small boy of 5 or 6, he was playing, going out and playing. He got a she-cat. What happened? What do the children do when they get any pet or something, cat or dog? They pull the tail, they pull the ears, they hurt it, they push it, they beat it. So Ganesha as a child was very innocent, small child, for 4 or 5, started doing the same with that cat, she-cat. So he pulled its child, he bet it, he pinched it, he pulled the ears, hurt it. It was innocence, it was not cruelty, you should remember that. So then the cat somehow escaped from Ganesha, she-cat, and ran away. So he forgot it. They're not bound, the children are not bound to any Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. They're free. He forgot the whole thing, started playing, came back to mother, maybe he was hungry. Anyway, he came to Mother Parvati, his mother Parvati, divine mother. Because she is the divine mother, she is Durga. And what happened? He sees on the face and the body of mother so much of bruises, so much of wound and other things. He was perturbed, Ganesha stands for the ideal of Matru Bhakti, devotion to mother. Like all the gods and goddesses, there are so many ideals they put in front of us so that we may follow it and go higher. The beautiful qualities in perfection will be showed by different gods and goddesses, all the 330 millions gods and goddesses in our Hindu pantheon. They are not just simply multi-gods there. There's one God who is coming down to our level, taking in so many beautiful character, that is ideals, and showing it to us so that we can go up in our life towards the divinity. So God, the one God, comes down taking different forms, different attributes, different ideals. So like that, all these gods and goddesses represent different ideals and characters. So like that, Ganesha, what does he represent? There are so many other things. Now at present, I am telling the best one, the highest one, that is Matru Bhakti, devotion to mother. He was ready to give up his head. That's why you see, whenever you see the head of Ganesha as elephant, what is that? The ideal you get, he sacrificed his head, human head, just to obey the one order of mother. He was ready to give up the life to not to save mother or something, just to keep up the word of his mother. That's all. He was ready to sacrifice himself. That's why that sacrifice, mother's devotion to mother. So the ideal Ganesha represent. He represents the ideal for brahmacharya. He represents the ideal for student's life, education, gnana. All those things are there. So many other ideal also he represent. But here, let us just concentrate on the ideal that he represented, one of that Matru Bhakti, devotion to mother. So Ganesha stood for that. So when mother was hurt, when he saw so much of bleeding and so much of wounds and bruises on her face, he got upset, he started crying, "Mother, who did this to you?" Then mother told, "Ganesha, did you hurt any being today, animal today?" Then he remembered, "Yes, I heard that she-cat. Did the owner of that cat come and do this to you, mother, because I did it to that cat?" No, it is you who did it. He was flabbergasted. What is this? I love my mother. I treat my mother with so much of care. How can I hurt my mother? Willfully, I have not done anything like that. He told, from today onwards, my dear child Ganesha, remember that in all the female beings, whether it may be a microbe, whether it may be insect, whether a bird or human being, in all the female beings, I, your mother, exist. Same teaching which Chandramani Devi is giving here. Very similar. And what is the other thing she told? In all the male beings, whether it is a microbe, whether it is a bird, whether it is an insect or a mollusk, whether it is a fish, whether it is a human being, in all the male beings, your father Shiva exists. In all the female beings, I, your mother, exist. Divine Mother Durga. Whatever you do, harm, hurting, or bad thoughts, or ill feelings, or anything towards any female creatures, it may be bird, it may be microbe, it may be human beings. Everything, all those bad things done will reach me, the Divine Mother, Parvati, Durga. Whatever you do to any male beings, whether it may be a microbe, a dog, or a fish, or anything, or a human being, all that reaches your father, Lord Shiva, the highest Deva, the Deva, Mahadeva. So now do whatever bad things you do to any woman, any girl, that directly goes to Divine Mother. You are hurting God Himself, and through that you will be hurting yourself, because the same Lord is present in you. Whatever you do to any male beings, that reaches Lord Shiva. Are you ready to hurt Shiva? Are you ready to hurt Vishnu? Are you ready to hurt Mother Durga? Are you ready to hurt Mother Lakshmi or Saraswati? So Ganesha, when he heard that, he etched it in his heart. That is faith. Immediately starts practicing it. Immediately. So another thing which we have to note, the positive aspect is, that is hurting is negative. But if you serve, if you have good feelings, whatever good things you do to any female beings, reaches Divine Mother. It will help you progress in spiritual life. Anything good, any seva, any service, any good feeling, any good thing done to any male being will reach to Lord Shiva or Narayana or Vishnu, the divine being. So positive. So Ganesha took it and followed it all through his life. When he came up to the age, see the faith, just told by the mother when he was 5 or 6 years old. When he came up to the age, mother told Ganesha, you have become an elderly person, now go and marry. Choose any girl you want, then you will marry. Ganesha told mother, I don't want to marry, I will not marry. Why marry a child? Like everything, like in every society, you have to also marry. No mother, child, no mother, my dear mother, what did you tell me when I was at the age of 5 or 6? That you exist in every female being. So if I marry any girl for that sake, I'll be marrying yourself. I can't look at any woman other than you. I see you in every female form. So how can I marry? So I will remain a brahmachari. That's why Ganesha is a brahmachari. So see, it is carried forward, practice, shraddha, intensest. That's why Vivekananda tells, you may not practice to much extent, at least some extent. The statement of Vivekananda is, if you have an ideal in your life, you may commit 50,000 mistakes. If you don't have an ideal, you may commit, if you don't have an ideal in your life, I quoted it wrong. If you don't have an ideal in your life, you may commit 50,000 mistakes. If you have an ideal in your life, you may commit 10,000 mistakes. What is better? To commit 50,000 mistakes or 10,000 mistakes? So have an ideal in your life so that you will commit lesser and lesser mistakes. I'll quote it again. If you have an ideal in your life, you may commit 10,000 mistakes. If you don't have an ideal in your life, you may commit 50,000 mistakes. What is better? To commit 10,000 mistakes or 50,000 mistakes? To commit 10,000 mistakes, less is better. So have an ideal in your life. So you will reduce the amount of mistake, then you will grow in spiritual status or any status for that sake. That is what Vivekananda is telling. So if you have all these ideal, see what the story of Ganesha and the story of Ramakrishna, it's very, very similar. So Ganesha ideal of Matru Bhakti, you can see in Ramakrishna too, in toto. So that's why all these ideals which all the gods and goddesses are representing, Ramakrishna also practiced in his life. He realized them, that ideal, he put it into practice in his life. Like you saw in Ganesha, just like in Rama, just like in Hanuman, all the ideals, all the 330 million gods and goddesses, all that ideals, character, he put that into practice in his life. That's why we call Ramakrishna Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. Not that to tell that Ramakrishna is greater than all gods and goddesses. No. It's called Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa because each gods and goddesses, they represent some ideals. Ramakrishna practiced all those ideals. He inculcated all those ideals into himself. He realized all those gods and goddesses in his own personality. He made his own personality as a laboratory. He practiced all paths. He practiced and realized all gods and goddesses, all the ideals into his life. That's why he is called Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. Could you catch it? So what is realization of God? It's not realization means simply you'll be sitting, closing your eyes, and suddenly one day God will appear to you and give you boon. That's a very ordinary way of looking at it. Realizing God means that you will start getting all those character and ideal, the Lord who represents in perfection. If you are a devotee of Rama, then what is the ideal which Rama represent? Pitruvakya Paripalaka, Satyavakya Paripalaka, Praja Samrakshaka, the best Kshatriya, king, Ekapatni Vratastha, the best husband. So all those character in perfection he is having. So if you are a devotee of Rama, those character, those good things will start coming to you. Then when you meditate and think of that and read Ramayana and get those character in toto, in perfection, then you yourself will become Rama. That is realization of that God. You are perfect in that character. You have become Rama. That is realization of God. Not just sit somewhere like this and then one fine day suddenly another thing with sound and other things, all the cinematic way, God will stand before you. My dear child, ask a boon, and you ask some boon and go away. That is not realization. That's a small part of realization. Real thing to know God, to meditate on God means getting those characters, the ideals, the character that which that Lord represent. So here Ramakrishna realized all those character, made all those characters of different gods and goddesses, all those ideals. He made his own personality into a laboratory, realized it, followed all the path, realized all gods and goddesses, brought complete perfection of all those character in him. That is the reason he is called Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa. Okay, that I may take another 2-3 hours to explain what is Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa. Since it came here, one of the things I showed about Ganesha, so you can see the ideal of Ganesha, Matru Bhakti. I told that story, and because of the teaching of the mother, Chandramani Devi, all his life he practiced that. He saw Divine Mother, his own mother, and Divine Mother in all the female beings. And he behaved and acted accordingly in his life. And you can see that ideal of Ganesha is there. That's why Ganesha Swarupa, Ramakrishna is Ganesha Swarupa. Rama's character in perfection, Rama's Swarupa. Krishna's character in perfection, Krishna Swarupa. It's not that he's greater or something, smaller, something. That idea is not there. The ideal is there. Now you might have understood to some extent. We'll go forward in life of Mother Chandra, the way the Chandramani Devi is trying. What a wonderful way. So I got this an opportunity. If you tell the stories to the Ganesha story, the Chandramani Devi story to the children when they are young, teach them this was the way, how to handle the children. This is the way, that is called faith. Then you can see children will learn it because they have intense faith when they are small children. You give the TV, you give them iPad, you give them all the Twitter and Facebook, and they will learn so many bad things from that. And after that, you can't do anything. They have lost faith. They have given their faith to that TV. The TV has become the guru. Instead of mother and father and the real guru becoming them guru, Guru Purnama is coming, the real realized soul becoming the guru, you are giving them phone, you are addicting them to the TV, addicting them to the modern gadgets and other things instead of giving our scriptures, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, and the story of Ramakrishna and other things to our children. We are giving these things, bad things, and that will become their guru. They will follow that ideal. Is that their mistake? No, it's not the mistake of the present generation. It is a mistake of you. It's a mistake of us. We have not given the proper thing. So yes, see, learn from Chandramani Devi. So beautifully she's telling, I will again tell it is true. My dear child Gadadhar, nothing will happen to you when you do that. But women will feel insulted. They are in no way different from me. The same thing Mother Parvati told Ganesha. So Ganesha Swarupa Ramakrishna. So there is in no way different from, they are in no way different from me. And so if you insult them, it is the same as insulting me. In future, don't do anything that would hurt any woman's sense of honor. Is it right to wound their feelings? Which is the same as wounding mine? This the boy could understand, and he never again behaved that way. That is Shraddha. He caught it. Ramakrishna, the Gadadhar, took that words of mother, put it into practice. After that, he never behaved in that way. This boy could understand, and he never again behaved that way. But until then, he gets, you just tell what not to do, he wants how not to and why not to. Mother gave, why not to and how not to. That's what we have to learn, the methodology, and teach. We'll go forward to resume the story of Gadadhar's progress at school. Was not bad. Within a short time, he could read and write simple words and sentences. He could read and write. The boy of 5 or 6 now, he could read and write simple sentences. But his aversion for arithmetic continued. On the other hand, he became more and more adroit in imitating others. So he had a very good nature of imitating others. He could quickly learn the other people's behavior, the birds and the other animals, imitation, anything, whatever he see, any human being, any character, he could imitate them quickly, learn their physical behavior and imitate them. He used to imitate so nicely when he used to be elderly afterwards. His disciples, Narendra and other students used to come. The way he used to imitate, the way he used to joke, imitating other characters, funny characters. So all these direct disciples, when they were youths, they used to roar with laughter. They couldn't contain the way Ramakrishna used to joke, the way Ramakrishna used to tell jokes and imitate some funny character or funny people. So they used to catch hold of their stomach. They couldn't withstand. They would laugh and laugh and laugh. They used to fall on the ground, roll on the ground and laugh. They couldn't contain their laugh. That is the way when Ramakrishna used to tell jokes and tell stories, when he used to imitate people, these young direct disciples at that time, Narendra, then other boys who used to come, they used to fall on the ground, catch hold of their stomach and roll on the ground in laughter. That is the way he used to imitate. See, one of the beautiful character of Ramakrishna here. Yeah, he didn't like mathematics or arithmetic. That why didn't he like that, we will come to know later on. But now we will concentrate on some of the other good character. That is, on the other hand, he became more and more adroit in imitating others and showing his originality in various ways. He became master in making images, sculpting. He learned so many original things. A sharp memory, he could learn all the verses of Mahabharata, Ramayana. He could quote anytime. Everything, whatever he hears, once it is enough. Gone inside. Practice. Faith. Mother told that, gone inside. Came into action. Faith. Like that, anything he sees once, enough. So all those beautiful nature you can see. So now, it's already 8 o'clock. We can go on thinking and meditating and telling more and more about Gadadhar and the parentage, the way they parented the child. But time, the Lord in the form of time to obstruct us, telling that we shall go to the next class because only 5 minutes more for 8 o'clock. We'll stop here and then we'll continue in the next class, that is on Thursday. So we will resume the study of Great Master. We've already finished, that's yesterday, Sunday, and today is Monday. Then it will resume on Thursday, then Friday too. So Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, we have this Great Master class in the morning, 6:30 South African time, 10 o'clock Indian time. Then tomorrow evening, that is today evening, 6 o'clock, we have the significance, science behind worship. So that is puja, class on puja today in the evening. Then tomorrow evening, we have the Vivek Chudamani at the same time, 6 o'clock. The Prakarana Grantha, the manual of Vedanta, Vivek Chudamani, Krishna Jewel of discrimination, Vivek. So on Wednesday, we have Bhagavad Gita class. Then Saturday also, we have Bhagavad Gita class. Everyone is welcome to all these discussions. So we'll be meditating and thinking of God in all these classes. And so many beautiful nature and character and ideals will be discussed about our own nature, ourself, the Lord, the highest Lord. So we shall all get benefited during this time of pandemic. We should keep only by keeping our mind at a very high state, we can bring in real immunity. Medicines may give to some extent, but keeping our mind strong at a higher state, you will forget your body and it will increase our immunity. So it's very easy to fight. We will not be aware of all these things. So body will become more healthier and healthier. Mind, stronger the body, and no disease can attack you. And also thinking and meditating on the God, the Lord's protection will be always there. Praying to God, you will be protected by the Lord. So easy way of overcoming the fear, the anxiety of this pandemic. If you are anxious, if you are worried, if you are afraid for life, then it will decrease your immunity and you are susceptible to all diseases. That's why the best way is to keeping your mind at a very high state, thinking of spiritual things. So as Swami Vivekananda tells, the remedy for weakness is not brooding over weakness, but to think of strength. The remedy for weakness is not brooding over weakness, but to think of strength. What are the strong thoughts, the strengthful thought, the spiritual thoughts, life of Ramakrishna, Bhagavad Gita, teachings of Krishna, Vivek Chudamani, and all those things. Keep our mind at a very high state. Let us keep our mind at a very high state, be strong, and easily we can fight this pandemic. So in this 3 or 4 minutes, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts on this subject only, please, it will be entertained. 3 or 4 minutes more. If you have any doubts or questions, it will be entertained.
Maharaj, Pranam, Madhu here again.
Madhu, is it? Please be louder, I can't hear.
Can you hear me, Maharaj?
Yeah.
Maharaj, today's satsang, you said about truth. If it is unpleasant, you don't tell. And but we said truth is. We said truth is always bitter.
Convert it into a soft truth where it will not hurt, and then you can tell. But if it is too harsh, you can keep quiet. I'm not telling to tell a lie.
Maharaj, we always say truth is always bitter.
Not at all. Truth is not always bitter. I will tell you an example. Very quickly, I want to give you an example that may clear your doubt. You know that story may be of Akbar and Birbal, but that was not Akbar Birbal. It may be Tenali Ramakrishna or anybody. Okay, we will take up the king. One king told his a astrologer came to his court. Then that astrologer started seeing the king wanted to know about his future. Then the astrologer told him that king, see according to that calculations, the astrologers, the stars and zodiac, it shows that all your relatives, the younger relatives and everybody will die in front of your eyes. You have to see the death of all your relatives, the younger ones. So the king was very much upset. That is truth, the way of telling the bitter truth. So he was very much hurt. Instead of rewarding that astrologer, he punished him and chased away. If you stay here another single minute, I may kill you, also put you to gallows. Get away from here. So he ran away somehow to escape. Then, but he came to that court, who was very famous, that just person. The minister told, I will help you. This is not the way of telling the truth. The truth should be told pleasantly. I will teach you how. Come, let us both of us disguise ourselves as another different astrologers. We'll go. I will teach you how to tell the truth in the pleasant way. Okay. Now both of them went. They are disguised completely. The older astrologer was completely disguised, and this minister also himself, because he knew very well to the king, so he disguised himself as another astrologer, came to the king. And when the king asked them, who are you? They told, we are astrologers. Then can you tell something about my future? So this minister, who knew everything, so he started telling. What is that? He told, O king, you will be the longest living person in your family. You will be the longest living person in your family. Nobody can surpass you. It was the same truth. Was it not? It was the same truth. If you tell this way, it is harsh, bitter. If you tell this way, in this way, it is very soothing. There he told, all your kith and kin, all your relatives, all your younger ones will die in front of you. You will see them dying. It is harsh, bitter. The same truth, you will be the longest living person in your family. Nobody will surpass you. Made pleasant. Priyam Bruya. That's all. It's in your hand to make it bitter or pleasant.
Okay.
I think I have answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. So any other question relevant to the subject or any? Yeah, Kulan Shetty, please tell.
It's wonderful. We've been to Kamarpukur now without even sitting one step outside my home. And I'm so thrilled to be there. I wish I'll be missing it for the next 2 days while waiting for Thursday. But thank you, Swamiji, for such a wonderful, inspiring read, and also the side stories, which is more interesting. Thanks, Swamiji.
Yeah, you can now be in that same momentum, keep that story and everything again, recollecting it, and up till next Thursday, you can be in that same meditative mode. That will help you.
Yes, Swamiji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Uttering the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagatushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsi Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.